in your conception, in what ways is the Antichrist most usefully symbolized, and where does it lay hierarchically relative to Christ, presumably at the same strata? And what is the most practical relationship for each of us to have with Antichrist? Presumably one of informed responsibility. Wow. Yeah, that's really, it's very tough. That's very tough. In what ways is it most usefully symbolized? A good way to see, here's a way that I could say it. It doesn't encompass everything, but here's an interesting way that I could say it that maybe a lot of people hadn't thought about, which is something like Christianity without Christ could be a way to see Antichrist. There are other ways, but if we look at the first Antichrist, if we look at Judas, we look at the way that Judas acted in relation to Christ. It's very interesting because Judas betrayed Christ, but there's a scene, for example, where Judas, where a sinful woman comes to wash Christ's feet, and then Judas criticizes Christ for doing that, and he says, what does he say? He says, "How could you accept this? We should have given the perfume, this very expensive perfume, sold it, and given the money to the poor." And I think that is that's a nice image of the spirit of Antichrist, a kind of Christian values without Christ, and you see that right now, I think, in the kind of extreme, what you call mainline Protestant churches. You kind of see this move towards an obsession with social justice and an obsession with social questions, but a turn away from the essential aspect of the church, which is to come into communion in worship before God, and also be transformed personally by our experience of communion and our interaction within the life of church, and is rather turned towards. Now, I'm not saying, of course, Christians shouldn't help the poor. Of course they should. Christ told us we should help the poor. But this is the trick of Antichrist, which is to kind of give us something, a kind of Christianity without Christ. And so, what is our most, how can we be responsible towards that? Now, okay, let's say it this way. Antichrist is, I talk about the double inversion. Everybody has heard me talk about that. If you're listening to this tonight, you've probably heard me talk about the double inversion. I think that that's something that can be done with the spirit of Antichrist. I think that when we encounter people who talk about Christianity without Christ, I think we can flip it back and bring it back to Christ. And so, if you've noticed, that's what I've been doing. Hopefully I can only say is for those who have ears to hear. All right. Okay. So Kevin Martin asks, what relationship do you see between